Welcome back, everybody. So glad you could be with me here today. Walter at the workbench. Let's talk scrapers. So oftentimes you'll hear people say, when you have a difficult wood, there we go, use a card scraper. And if sharpened properly, you'll peel off shavings, ultra-fine shavings, and you'll leave a tear-out free surface. However, I personally don't use one of these often because I can get a better finish on a difficult piece of wood using a hand plane. Now, there is a tool that I like to use. It is the Stanley No. 80. Now, the Stanley No. 80 is a scraper. The difference in the two, they both rely on a sharp burr. The difference is your card scraper is sharpened 90 degrees, square and straight. Your cabinet scraper is a 45-degree angle, sharpened much like you would any, see if I can get it in the light here, any plane blade. So you flatten the back, polish it. Make sure you have no nicks or burrs or scratches at all on the back. All right? Then you hone your 45-degree bevel. Does it have to be exactly 45? No, it can be anything but get close. Then, because I just did this one, we're not going to show you on that, but let me find which is the worst edge on this cabinet scraper. That's a good edge. That one's pretty bad. So what you do is you take your polished face, okay? You take a burnisher and laying it flat. Okay, you do the same thing with this one. You would lay it flat on the surface and you draw out the steel. Remember, I said you're staying flat. You're not angling it. Okay, they sometimes in some workshops they call that clicking. Then you take your burnisher and you draw out your wire edge or your burr. Like I said, this Sandvik is very hard steel. Sometimes it behaves, sometimes it doesn't. And that gives you a fresh edge. And you can do that 2 or 3 times with a cabinet, with a card scraper, before it needs resharpening. The same thing goes with the Stanley No. 80. Now, to put the blade in, I have seen some professional cabinet makers just drop this in between the holding plate and the body. I was taught to hold it on its side and with the burr up, bring it in from the bottom. Okay? You bring it in from the bottom between the holding plate and the body. That way there is no chance that you're going to hit metal to metal contact. Then you make sure you're touching your wood. You tighten these wing nuts just finger tight. Now some models have a a wing nut and a screw. I like the ones that have the actual thumb screws. So now you're not getting any sort of a cut. How you get your cut is by adjusting this wing nut, which bends the blade ever so slightly. Okay, you hear that difference? It's just starting to touch. And there it is. You can get a thicker or thinner cut by how tight you turn that wing nut. So I will use this. I will use the Stanley 80 if I'm in a tough situation with reversing grain and I've got different boards glued together, etc. So do you have a Stanley 80 in your shop? Or an 81? Once you're done with the Stanley number 80, then you proceed with your sanding as you would for finishing. 180, 150, 220, whatever it is. I never sanded very fine on my work because I was taught that you need to have some way for your finish to bite into the wood. That's about it, everybody. If you have any questions on scrapers, leave them in the comments section. But as you can see, it's much like a planer shaving. Summertime's here. Starting to sweat. Like, subscribe, and share. Head out to your workshop. Go make some shavings. Walter out.